What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Brand Marks the Spot. It's your brand buddy, Patrick Sesko. And this show is all about branding and design and how you can implement those things to grow your business and create more impact in your business. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the difference between design and branding, because a lot of times there's a confusion as to what those two things are, or sometimes they're sort of intertwined or both used, the same terms are used for this different things. I just need to check in to see if we're live. If you're live, drop in a comment and say hello. I would love to hear from you. If you're catching a replay, give me a hashtag replay. And let's see if we're live here. Give everybody a couple seconds to come in. Yep, and it appears that I am, and everything seems to be working well. So again, this episode is all about the differences between design and branding. And this episode is brought to you by a brand new freebie that I created for you guys. It's a free mini brand guide. And this is a simple 3-section, 1-page brand guide that allows you to stay consistent with your brand so you can boost your visibility and impact. And then you can show up with a little bit more confidence in your business when you have that consistency in your business. So you can go ahead and grab that at patricksesko.com/free brand guide. So go ahead and check that out, and I'll pop the link there at the bottom of the screen during the show so you can see what's going on there. So if you come in the middle. Anyways, so let's get back to today's episode, the difference between branding and design. Let's start with sort of some definitions, right? So the definition, the Webster's, does anybody use the Webster's dictionary anymore? Of course, it's the online version. But the definition of design is an arrangement of lines or shapes created to form a pattern or a decoration. And then when you specifically talk about the definition of graphic design, which is the art or profession of using design elements such as typography, images, line, shape, texture, all those things, so that you can convey information to create an effect, a mood, or a feeling. And I would actually add to that, design, the purpose of design is to inspire action. So design is how it also works when you think of it in that way. And then there's other ways of describing design, like, you can design a program where we're not talking just visual, like design is also how it works. When you design a website, you design how it looks, but you also design how it works, which is sort of like user interface kind of design. So there's different types of design. But when I'm talking about design in this context, I'm referring to graphic design. And then to differentiate I define branding as the process of creating a strong, consistent, like a positive perception of you or your company over time in the mind of your customer, right? It's the feeling that people get when they interact with your brand. And I believe Marty Neumeier sort of came up with that, or he's known for it anyways. But that's what branding is. Branding is the sort of intangible feeling that people get when they interact with your brand. When they see your stuff in the scroll, it's like, oh, what do you think about that guy? How do you feel about him? And the design is like the visual sort of representation of the brand. So that's like that's the tangible, the graphic design. And then when we're dealing with branding, so graphic design is part of, graphic design can be anything, right? You can design a flyer for a party, or I'm in a band, so I design band flyers. So those sort of have like one kind of purpose. And then you can design like greeting cards, you can design business cards, you can design, anything, brochures or whatever. And those don't necessarily have to be branded per se, right? So that's why you're going to see a lot of templates and things like that online. And those aren't necessarily branded. You can brand it with your colors and your fonts and logos and visuals and those kinds of things. But the branding part of it really refers to the strategy side. So like branding starts with your strategy, right? So when you're branding, and branding has become like the F word in online marketing, because it's a verb, it's a noun, it's an adjective. What is it? It's not really this tangible thing you can hold in your hands. But when you're branding, when you're starting off with your branding in this discovery phase, it's important to get that pre-work, that foundational work, so that way your design later on is influenced by what you do in the strategy work. So for instance, that discovery or strategy work includes, who you are, what you stand for, your values, specifically, what are the things that you offer? Is it a program? Is it a course? Is it one-on-ones? Who is the audience that you actually offer it to? You're not just going to offer it to anybody, because you're not going to resonate with a specific group of people. And that's kind of called niching, or focusing your audience there. And how you offer it, is it, like I said, is it a one-on-one group, or is it a group coaching? Is it a one-on-one engagement? Is it a DIY thing? And then, then it's also the personality and how you show up. It's the words you say, it's the way you talk, and all of those things, right? So those are the sort of intangibles that will, once you sort of have those dialed in, and frankly, those things are sort of ever evolving. I always say branding is a long game. That strategy part is always something that's fine tuned, because there's so many parts to it. And if one part of it's not working, it could be because your messaging is off, or maybe you're not talking to the right audience, or maybe the offer's not right. So, that's sort of the business side of it and the strategy side of it. But once you sort of have that sort of basic part down, you use that information to inform what you're going to do in that develop stage, which is the designing of specifically your brand identity. So your brand identity is sort of that visual representation of the strategy work. It's a visual representation of your business, your brand, you, especially if you're a personal brand. So it's like that. Yeah, it's a brand identity, and all of that brand identity is then going to be incorporated into the design phase, which is the look and feel, the colors, the fonts, and all that stuff, and how it's going to look, the brand, the visual style in all of your touch points. It's going to be your website, your social media, print ads, anything that's going to be visually representing you anywhere is your brand identity in action through design. So that's sort of the differences. So design, or graphic design specifically, and brand identity design are all parts of branding as a whole, but the branding is sort of that intangible thing. It's the process and the steps and the things that you do intentionally to influence how your audience is going to feel about you and your brand. Because the truth is, they're going to form an opinion one way or another. The famous quote goes, you have a brand whether you like it or not. So why not have influence, and not trickery or underhandedness, but just like, okay, I don't want to be known as some a-hole. Frankly, I want to be known as somebody who's good at branding, who's personable, who's friendly, is fun, and is passionate. And so that's kind of how I present myself. And it's really not hard, because I'm just being myself for the most part. Yeah, in my real life, I probably curse way more than I ever would here on live, but I don't feel a need to do it in the business. So that's just a value of mine. But I have no problem with that. So it's showing up authentically and all those things, right? So remember, that strategy work is the sort of the branding, if you will. That's the intentional stuff that you're going to do that's going to help influence how your audience feels. That stuff is then going to influence your brand identity, which is going to be your logo, your fonts, your photography, and those things. And that brand identity kit are the components that you're going to use to create your designs, your look and feel, your that design style, right? So that's kind of how it works. Those are the differences. And I always like to say, like, your brand is like a Snickers bar, right? So your brand messaging is, Snickers satisfies. And the brand identity is the candy wrapper. That's the thing that you see, right? And that's the design part. And then you have like the chocolate, the peanuts, the caramel, and the nougat, or however you say it. What is nougat anyways? Anyways, I digress. So those are your offerings. Those are the physical things or even if it's a digital products, these are the things that you're offering to your audience. And then that satisfaction of eating the Snickers bar. Snickers satisfies, right? They kind of ingrained that in your mind, and that sort of that feeling of fullness, or it satisfies you, that's what the essence of the brand is, right? And that's kind of what branding is as a whole. So design is part of branding, and the brand is really that sort of essence of how your audience feels about you when they interact with your brand. So those are the differences. I hope that's been helpful for you guys today. If you guys have any comments, just go ahead and post something down. Give me a hashtag replay. Just get some engagement on the post. Would love that. I will respond, as always. And again, check out that free brand mini guide at patricksesko.com/free brand guide. I am done with the show. If you guys have any questions, hit me up, and we'll see you next week. Talk soon.